Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we all know the UK has fallen quite some time ago, but the free speech measures, I should say anti-free speech, are absolutely insane. We are seeing news regularly about people being arrested for the most minute, nothing issues. IT consultant says he was put through 13 weeks of hell after he was arrested for posing with a shotgun in Florida. This guy took a photo while on vacation in Florida with a gun. There's nothing illegal about this at all. He was arrested upon arrival in the UK for this. And this is going around the news a lot, but so are so many other stories. Certain words you cannot use, people being arrested and imprisoned for alleged neo-Nazi music on their devices. We're talking about banning of silent prayer. There's videos of people getting arrested simply for standing on a street corner, and someone says, the police say, "Hey, are you praying?" And they say, "Maybe in my head," and they get arrested. I mean, it's absolutely insane. Comedy writers being arrested for trans jokes, pro-Palestine activists being arrested. And this is all leading to one very, very important conclusion, which goes above and beyond free speech. We're going to go into this and more today, my friends. But before we do, I urge you to check those links below and make sure that you can evade the digital prison they want to put us in. If you're dependent on the banks that are bankrupt, by the way, the banks that will not be properly insured, you need to ensure yourself that you won't be forced into that digital ID CBDC system. I urge people to go and check out firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. It has to be that exact link, not a shortened version. And there you could schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez and a complimentary investors package. You could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. Let him know in the comments of the forum that he found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. Of course, we do many videos with Mark Gonzalez over on our Rumble and BitChute channel over at World Alternative Media. I urge people to go and check out our economics videos with them. Also, make sure to check that link in the description for the Wave Watch 2.2. You can pre-order it right now. It's ready right away pretty much, but this is amazing stuff. 1,100 plus frequencies, actually 1,250 frequencies now. They're improving it regularly, which helps with many different things. Again, endorsed by people like Dr. Brian Artists. You don't need Wi-Fi for any of this, and it's great for your ability to sleep, to be stress-free, soothes your nerves, boosts your energy, enhances cellular function. Really cool stuff. If you use code WAM, WAM, you will get more than $100 off on your order. So go and check that link in the description today and pre-order now. Links are, of course, all below. Hit that like button, share on social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not yet already. Anyway, let's get into this first story here. So this one is hitting a lot of news as we enter into December now. IT consultant says he was put through 13 weeks of hell after he was arrested for posing with a shotgun in Florida. I mean, here are the photos. First of all, I just want to say not the best pose for holding a shotgun, but hey, he's from the UK. It's been a long time since they disarmed people there. That's a bit better with the rifle. But look, again, this is literally nothing. I have a million photos like this from when I was living in the United States, including also before they banned, every rifle in Canada. Some photos in Canada doing the same thing. Again, this is nothing. But of course, in the UK today, hey, run a rape gang? No problem. Go ahead. Here's some welfare money. Oh, by the way, take a photo on vacation in Florida with a shotgun. Jail time. It's insane. An IT consultant says he was put through 13 weeks of hell after being arrested for posing with a gun in a LinkedIn post while on holiday in Florida. John Richelieu Booth posted three images of himself with firearms while staying on private property with friends in the US. However, when he arrived back in the UK in August, a police officer visited his house to warn him that concerns had been raised about his account. The 50-year-old said he was offered to offered to prove that the pictures had been taken in the U.S., where owning or shooting guns are legal. Officers told him it was not necessary. A week later, on August 23rd, the officers returned and arrested him on suspicion of possessing a firearm with intent to cause fear of violence. He also faced another allegation of stalking related to a photograph of a house that appeared on his social media. Dr. Richelieu Booth was held overnight in a cell before being interviewed. He was then released on bail until October. He claims police visited his home 3 more times before the charges against him were dropped. Absolutely insane. That constitutes harassment and stalking, if anything. And again, you have the right to do, first of all, you should have the right in the UK for this, but you can't even carry around knives unless they're in a box in the back of your vehicle. But hey, if you're a homeless drug addict, go ahead, wave machetes around in public. But again, the UK is totally fallen. You have a right to be taking photos on vacation in the United States where guns are legal and post them on social media. I shouldn't have to even say that. But nonetheless, this is just a symptom of a much bigger problem in the UK right now, because we're seeing a lot of these stories coming out lately. Afraid of being arrested, Tucker Carlson challenges Piers Morgan to say anti-gay slur. What he's talking about is the word faggot. And in the United Kingdom, you could be arrested for saying faggot. In fact, many people have been arrested for saying faggot. I feel the need to say it a few more times because we are dealing with a world where people are afraid of words, and that is something that unfortunately breeds the silencing of the masses, which leads to a much darker scenario in the near future, the digital ID system, which I'll get into shortly. This is just step 1. And being afraid of offending someone. Okay, the governments that mass murder people overseas, drop bombs on children, have no right to talk about being offensive towards someone and stopping people from being offensive because they care so much about you. No, they don't. They don't care about you. If you're offended over words, that's your problem. All people out there, excuse me, that are offended by words, you're the weakest among society. And being offended is a you problem. It's not my responsibility to pat you on the back and hold your head in my arms as you cry about throat noises because you don't like throat noises. Oh, what about the connotation of that word? Fuck off. My grandfather was in World War II, born in 1922, caught malaria, saw his friends die. Over a lie, of course. We know all this now. But of course, the point is we're seeing a difference between the strong and the weak, and the weak collapse civilization. And the UK has fallen so far, as has Canada, as has Australia and New Zealand. And yes, as has the United States, just in a different way, at a slower pace, but all the same, in the same line, with the same puzzle pieces coming together, all moving towards a global technocracy. Anyway, there's more stories here. Family convicted of disseminating terrorist material and racial hatred through neo-Nazi music. They had a bunch of heavy metal music. Robert Talon, 56, his son Stephen, 36, and daughter Rosie, 34, all from Essex, were found guilty of multiple charges of stirring up racial hatred following a 9-week trial in Woolwich Crown Court. Robert was also found guilty of 2 offenses of disseminating terrorist material. Now, what do you call that these days? It's up in the air. All 3 were arrested back in October of 2020 when everyone was looking the other way because the UK was, utilizing the litmus test of COVID to arrest and enslave countless people. But nonetheless, they've been imprisoned for this, and largely for having music that was considered neo-Nazi material. Okay. We could ask a lot of questions about the specifics of the music, but does it matter? It's music. They're songs. You share it with a friend, saying, hey, I like this song, regardless of how offensive it is to you. The mainstream music in the United States, one of the biggest songs right now that children are singing, is called Pink Pony Club, which is about a girl who wants to dance as a stripper. But that's hardly, even touching the edge of the spear here. We also have to understand that most rap music, usually produced by closeted gay guys like Diddy, allegedly, promoted murdering people, beating women, prostitution, doing an abundance of drugs. And children listen to that, and it changed culture. And strange executives who come from a certain part of the world who they clearly don't like rap themselves, produced all this stuff and pushed it on the people right after, by the way, the Contra scandal, where the CIA was working with the Nicaraguan government to traffic crack in order to target black families, specifically in LA, to break up the family, to create a breakdown of society, which would lead to the pushing of this rap, which would lead to the Rodney King riots and all these different things back in April of 1992. And this all leads to that downfall where now we have a bunch of black kids with no fathers and, a massive crime rate among a specific race, causing demoralization and divide, and perpetuating racial warfare. So again, this is all part of the same agenda. It's all part of the same agenda. And, again, they say, okay, well, we can't have these people sharing music that might be considered Nazi-like. This is all just a shift into a new system of governance and demoralization as well. But it goes into technocracy. But this is now enforced, and it has been for over a year now, a new law banning silent prayer in England and Wales, where people are actually they're acting like if it's in front of abortion clinics and stuff, protection zones around abortion clinics. But it's much more than that. There's many videos of police arresting. Imagine being that cop. What a piece of shit. Arresting a woman who was standing on the street corner with her eyes closed for a moment, looking down. Oh, you're praying. She said, maybe, in my head. Arrested. And by the way, not just that, these people are being arrested while, again, you can do Muslim prayer in public, and this is an attack on Muslims. It's like two wrongs don't make a right. I don't think anyone should be punished for praying. But, if you're Muslim in the UK, you're allowed to. This is a purposeful move by the state to target people. If you are Jewish, you're allowed to pray as well in public. It's specifically seeming to target, because just looking at the arrest records, Christians. And that seems to me to be a major part of demoralizing a part of the cultural structure of the UK. And it's not necessarily that they don't want people to pray as Christians. What they are technically doing here is they're trying to demoralize people against each other and cause that back and forth between this side and that side. That's a number one goal, though, of course, those in power are totally satanic. There's no doubt about that. I mean, they've proven that themselves time and time again. Keir Starmer is an absolute pig piece of shit, but he's not really making any of these rules. He's just a puppet, which is blatantly obvious. A comedy writer's arrest supercharges a transatlantic debate about freedom of speech in Britain. Now, we saw this man who was arrested at London Heathrow Airport, comedian Graham Linehan, because he made some posts about trans people. He said, and I quote, "If a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he's committing a violent abusive act," Linehan wrote in one of them in reference to trans women. "Make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls." He's a comedian. He's making jokes. Arrested. And I believe they said he had he was hospitalized with insanely high blood pressure, an issue I suffer from myself, due to stress because he was being held for quite some time back in September. This is absolute batshit crazy. But, we sometimes we think about it. We got so used to being able to say things for years that it's just so insane to think of how far it's gone. Because if we went 20 years back and said this was happening in the UK, people would be losing their mind. But it shouldn't have surprised anyone at the time that this would happen because the UK was already a massive surveillance state at the time, 20 years ago. I remember focusing on that. Well, 19 years ago, 2006, I remember looking into this the most. And it's like, we've been talking about this for a long time. It's that slow drip that I've been talking about for so long. It always eventually leads to these things happening. And it's not going to stop. That tumor keeps growing. Collectivism begets collectivism. If government is a tumor, it's going to constantly grow. And it will because it's allowed to. And voting for someone else isn't going to change that because the left will do it with climate policies and trans stuff and all that with free speech, demolishing it. And then the right on the other side of the paradigm, the Pepsi Coke paradigm, will push it over Israel and migration and push biometrics and all that stuff. It all leads to the same place, just in different ways. And it's exactly what we're seeing in the US right now. But I digress. Carrying on here. Pro-Palestine activist arrests test limit of UK free speech. Now, of course, this is something that's very common. If you have a Jewish flag in public in the UK, most of the time you're okay, even though the Star of David or of Rembrandt or the Seal of Solomon, whatever you want to call it, isn't actually really Jewish, but okay, whatever. My point is, maybe if they had a menorah, but if you wave a Palestinian flag at a lot of these events, you get arrested for hate speech. And it's happening in Germany. It's happening throughout the European Union as well. They've been pushing this stuff in Canada. They've been pushing this stuff in the United States, big time in the United States. They're deporting people right now in many cases that have legal visas. They might not be citizens, but they have legal visas for criticizing Israel. And they're pushing forward a new migration pact with Israel where Israel will actually dictate what migrants are allowed to stay and what aren't, and based also in what they say about Israel. UK free speech crackdown sees up to 30 people a day arrested for petty offenses such as retweets and cartoons. This also, by the way, there's still that push for the 7 years in prison for simply offending a trans person online, which is something that J.K. Rowling had pushed back against big time. And the Scottish government, to their credit, said we won't really do that, but who's to say they won't? I mean, under any situation, who's to say they won't? Under any emergency order, they have it in place. They have the rules and restrictions in place. They can do that. And they have already arrested countless people for saying things about trans people or just in general criticizing politicians and government going to your door over social media posts and, retweeting someone. Guilt by association is considered something that could actually get you 7 years in prison. But again, be a crazy drug addict with machete in the street, taking a shit in the middle of the road. You're all good. You're one of our good, doctors and engineers of our country that we care about so greatly. And, your cultural enrichment, it's enriching culture. But, say something negative about that online, boom, gone. As someone, by the way, who has had my visa declined in the UK, I feel like I know where that's going as well. BitChute, this is from earlier this year. I reported on it previously, but BitChute discontinues video sharing service for UK residents over online censorship laws. Again, this is another example. Ray over at BitChute is someone I consider a friend. I talk to him a lot. Awesome person. And doesn't have an algorithm that hides my content like almost everyone else, including the big guys like Rumble, which definitely shadow bans me. Haven't been able to get new subscribers for like 5 or 6 months. But anyway, BitChute has done a good job. They refuse to bow down to UK laws. I've been talking with Ray about this going back to, I think, 2019, 2020. And he's never given in. And now it's discontinued. But again, my friends, it's called a VPN. It's called a VPN. If you're watching in the UK, it's called a VPN. Same within Brazil, where I think they also shut down BitChute, if I'm not mistaken. U.S. officials challenge Ofcom over online safety laws' impact on free speech. These, again, a big part of this is also just the fact that, okay, these internet IDs and everything. Part of this is, to stop children from watching pornography. But what is it really about? That's a Trojan horse. Obviously, no one wants children watching pornography. This is something that's been pushed on children to demoralize and desensitize kids from an early age. Horrible thing. But you create the problem, you get a reaction, then you come in with a solution. And the solution is less freedom, as always. So they have these internet ID laws. They want age verification on a bunch of stuff. It really restricts people down to no one has privacy anymore. Both the left and the right are doing this. In Florida, they're pushing this under DeSantis. Trump has been pushing this for a while as well. And again, it just actually leads back to the same thing: the biometrics, the Real ID, the Genius Act with the centralized cryptocurrencies, not actual cryptocurrencies. This is all stemming out of the free speech issue. America could be next. Well, no kidding. It is an offense to support a prescribed organization. It's a horrible accent. I'm usually better at it, but give me a break here. Listen, we have these insane dystopian signs up throughout the UK. And it's not just freedom of speech, it's freedom of walking from point A to point B and driving from point A to point B. 15-minute cities, my friends. I was in Oxford for about a month in, I believe, 2023, studying the 15-minute city arrangements there, which are absolutely insane. Hey, we're going to stop pollution. Well, they actually don't care about pollution. They want to get rid of carbon. And by carbon, I mean you. But anyway, they're like, hey, we want to stop climate change, quote unquote, by stopping people from driving in neighborhoods and cutting off roads completely. So we have little prison cities that are so convenient. Tyranny comes under the guise of convenience, my friends. And in that, we'll have surveillance everywhere. We'll have sensors in the sidewalks. We'll have facial recognition cameras all over the streets, which I've seen. They're there. We'll have bollards up everywhere. And hey, just like China, by the way, which was a litmus test for technocracy utilized by the Trilateral Commission for years. And then, hey, by the way, if you idle in traffic, we'll fine you. Okay, let me think about this for a second. A drive that used to take 5 minutes now takes 15 minutes because half the city's cut off. You're stuck in traffic. You're idling. You have no choice. And then you're fined on that as you are getting photographed by cameras, which, by the way, the United States is installing in its own way. I mean, they have idling laws in New York and stuff and throughout Canada as well, and in California. But Trump is unveiling, just again, like the left and the right, they both do the same thing. It all leads to the same thing. Trump is unveiling these cameras, facial recognition cameras on highways and roads throughout the United States in order to track suspicious behavior. If someone travels in a way that seems unusual, which I did all the time. I mean, when I was living in Vegas or when I was living in Arizona, I'd go to one of those all the time for no reason. Randomly, the day of, I'd be like, I feel like going there, or I feel like going to San Diego, or I feel like going to Oregon or Colorado or New Mexico, whatever it might be. And I did that all the time. And, when I go on a trip, when I have to drive from Canada to Vegas, when I was living in Vegas, I would purposely take the long roads and just go through random fields and, just enjoy the view and the scenery and the cultures and small towns and stuff. That's not a bad thing. I shouldn't be considered a terrorist for that. I shouldn't be potentially arrested for that. And I know a thing or two about that correlated with free speech, considering I was a guy who called Justin Trudeau a scumbag back in March of 2017. You could look it up, Trudeau scumbag, on Google or anywhere, pre-search preferably. And all I did was I went in and the government told me, here's 5 questions you could pick from to ask Trudeau a question at this press conference. I'm not taking the government's question. So I went to ask my own. I was thrown to the ground and attacked by security. And as I was being pulled out of the room and Trudeau basically smirked at me with his bullshit smirk, I said, shame on you and your globalist counterparts. You're a scumbag, an absolute scumbag. And I got arrested for that. And again, I was informed later that I was on a terrorist watch list. I was informed later that there were restrictions. I couldn't be within like 200 meters of Justin Trudeau. And this is for asking a question at a press conference that wasn't mandated by the state. Again, these mandates will continue to move in the direction of the digital system. As I've been reporting on a lot lately, the mandatory digital IDs in the UK. They're official, they're in place now. And these digital IDs allow the state to essentially restrict basic things that you do on a day-to-day basis based on eventually this expansion with their social credit system, which are also expanding with the online or the Ofcom thing, and children having age verification online and all that kind of stuff. They are going to attach this to food rations and all these other things, just like they are going to do the same with the real ID in the US, just like they're going to do in Canada, just like they're going to do with the biometric IDs in Mexico, which is one of the least pro cashless countries, which they're trying to push hard. This is why they want war with Latin America. Check out my recent videos on that with Venezuela and all that. But again, the reality is, as Keir Starmer said himself, it's voluntary, but without it, you won't be able to have a functional life. This is exactly what the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation tried out in Sierra Leone. In Sierra Leone, they rolled out their digital ID system a couple years ago, which said you couldn't have a job, drive a car, have a license, have a bank account, eat food, do anything without the digital ID. Or the OGEC people in Kenya who got the carbon credits in their cashless system, which said that they couldn't, eat food because their carbon credit score was too terrible. Again, this is what they're already in the UK. They have a nudge unit pushed by Professor Suzanne Michie, who is a big person behind the propaganda for COVID, who is putting carbon credits on your bank accounts. They're already there. They're just not mandated yet. But this idea of, it's voluntary. Okay, it's voluntary, but it's coercion, because they're saying if you don't do it, you're going to be basically screwed at all tasks in life because you'll need that. You'll need a digital ID in order to function in society. You'll have to go and live out in a cabin in the woods in the middle of nowhere if you don't want it. Oh, wait, you can't even do that because private property isn't really a thing in the UK. And also because you'd still have to have a digital ID to own a house. All under the guise of, by the way, mass migration. That's how they start. And they're rolling out multiple other forms of digital IDs right now in the UK, but it's all part of the same agenda for the World Economic Forum. But they mass import migrants after blowing up their countries. They find the angriest ones. They go to prisons and take people out of there. They put them on the street in a culturally different place. Expect that to correlate? No, it will not. But what does is eventually chaos and, problem, reaction, solution, repeat, like I said earlier. The Hegelian dialectic. They say, hey, well, we have too much migration in the streets now. We do have some rape gangs. Okay. We have the grooming gangs. Okay. They were right about that. Therefore, here, come in with the biometrics. Same thing they're doing in the US. We'll bring in digital IDs for this. This is exactly what I've been warning about, and exactly the point where people just fall short of understanding here. They are creating the problems to come in as a solution. It's so obvious. They're doing this with every factor from food, water, shelter, self-defense, free speech, digital IDs, social credit, of course, war, both international and civil war, all manufactured and fake. I mean, across the board, I can't think of anything that they're not targeting here. Health, for sure. And yet people will fall for this side or that side, the mainstream side or the mainstream alternative side, with the fake alternative medias that are being promoted by algorithms across the board in the new social credit system, like X or Facebook, that pretend to play opposites. It's all part of the same push for that digital ID system. You will own nothing and you'll be happy. Elon Musk, the guy who's putting chips in people's brains attached to Pentagon-funded mesh networks, super anti-establishment, gets all this money from the government. He's super anti-establishment because he says he's so-called based. It's so stupid. People are so easily manipulated. Registering X as a bank, pushing X money in collaboration with Visa Card, is the guy who says AI will destroy humanity, but is the number one person working on it, while also, by the way, creating a hive mind network of satellites around the world at the same time as saying AI will take most of your jobs within the next few years. But don't worry, you could have universal basic income and you should have carbon credits and carbon taxes and all that kind of stuff and be stuck in your home, which is exactly what Yuval Noah Harari at the World Economic Forum said his dream was. to see a world where people are placated on drugs and playing video games. Again, people will fall for anything. And as long as it's convenient and easy, right? And of course, then they create a problem and they say, here's an easy solution. Well, that's what this will be. And with Trump pushing AI, left and right both are pushing this hardcore right now. And if people do not understand where this is going and what they need to prepare for, then they will succumb to, well, they'll succumb to the cancer that this has become by design. Again, I urge people to check those links below for solutions, because the basis of humanity is individualism. And if it's individualism, what we're seeing is a war on humanity right now. Our job is to be more human. They depend on the dependence of the masses. Don't be dependent. Be independent. It's pretty basic, but it's not about protesting, though that could spread the word. It's not about voting in some other asshole. It's about getting prepared as an individual. And that's why I urge people to check those links I always promote. I barely get anyone to actually do this, unfortunately, because most people, and it's no offense to anyone out there, I know a lot of people do care, but like most people want to complain. They don't want actual solutions. And I try to give those solutions, and I don't make money off of most of these things, but people will still say that it's some kind of grifting. I mean, even though for years and years and years, I told people to buy gold and silver, I told people to get storable food, all these things, without any affiliates ever on any of them and not making any money off them. I'm just consistent. I think it's important we are, as individuals, prepared rather than on our knees begging the state to save us later on in food ration lines with digital IDs and CBDCs in 15-minute cities in a technocratic hellscape. I urge people to check that link in the description, firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ has to be that exact link, not a shortened version, not a lengthened. It has to be that exact one. It's in the description. You can avoid the CBDCs and digital IDs through this. You can avoid the devaluation of the dollar. You can avoid the very real issues of course, inflation and the banks failing. Buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, hold it in your hand, put it in a vault, put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system, and schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez. And you'll also get a complimentary investors package. Just let him know in the comments of the forum that he found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. And I think this is very important for everyone. Also, check out heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Use code WAM, WAM, and you'll get 5% off as well as free shipping on your order. So this is incredibly important going forward. Don't get the crap with the chemicals in it at Home Depot. Go instead and get this delivered, much bigger servings, fights against inflation in the sense that you're saving money overall on these servings, and also you're saving yourself and your family for later on. Also, again, outside of that, we have a lot of options for solutions for the many ways that we're being targeted by 5G and, of course, having cell phone radiation, all this kind of stuff. The good frequencies are good, obviously. Check out our link for Wave Watch 2.2. You could pre-order it now. It's in the description below. Now with 1,250 frequencies. It helps you with sleep. It helps you detox. It helps you improve your energy and balance. It's again, no Wi-Fi is required. No apps are required. It's on your wrist. It's endorsed by people like Dr. Brian Ardis and many others. And I urge people to go and check that out. Just make sure to use code WAM, WAM, and you'll save over $100 on this. So go and check that out below. Again, we have many options for health as well. We can't show you all the options for health if we post this video on YouTube. So make sure to go to Rumble and BitChute to see those links. But vni.life/WAM, WAM, is an amazing link for you guys to go check out for Victory Nutrition International. Super supplements are absolutely amazing. And one of them is Protovite, and I'm a huge fan of this. Use code WAM15, WAM15, and you'll get 15% off. And again, Protovite is 100 plus vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients in one bottle. And look at the before and after on this. My tabs are constantly, I have too many open, but my tabs are always resetting here. But look at the before and after on this. Look at the circulatory issues. Red blood cells are moving real slow. They've lost their negative charge. White blood cells are tiny and basically dormant. Look at what happens 5 minutes after taking it. Red blood cells freely flowing, restored negative charge. White blood cells 4 times their size. I mean, this is absolutely amazing. These are real blood tests, and this is after 5 minutes of taking Protovite liquid. It's absolutely amazing. This usually takes a month to do. So go and check that out. You can also subscribe on their site and save 20%. I urge people to go and check that out at vni.life/wham. And you could, again, use our code WHAM15. Finishing this off, I appreciate any help we can get. Thank you to those who've donated to our gogetfunding.com campaign. We could not survive without you. So thank you so much. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Ronald. Thank you, Scotty, as of the recent 3 people who've donated. You guys are absolutely amazing. And again, we've faced a lot of barriers because we dare to criticize both the left and the right. We dare to criticize both mainstream media and the propaganda among the alternative medias as well. And because we're consistent, but for that reason, we're basically shut down and we're not allowed to be seen. And you guys are the only thing that keeps us up and running. So I just want to thank all of you for your donations. Of course, go get funding is great, but there's also Patreon and Subscribestar and X at World Alt Media. If you pledge $4.99 a month or more, you'll get exclusive content, including we will be able to do personalized video messages to you if you have questions on things. Again, make sure to reach out to us. We're looking forward to your questions. And again, we have a PayPal address, ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com. We have a Bitcoin address that you can scan on the screen here or check out in the description below. And of course, we have a Cointree link with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in if you please, including privacy coins. So check that out below. We have a Teespring store with a bunch of merchandise. And as always, you can find us on Telegram, Band.video, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon at World Alternative Media. We're on Hive, Steemit, and Vigilante.tv at Josh Sigurdson. We're on the Bad Guys, TikTok and Instagram, World Alternative Media, Twitter and Getter at World Alt Media, and all the major podcast platforms except for Spotify, where, of course, we're banned. Hit the like button, share on social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not yet already. And again, my friends, what we're seeing in the UK is barely scratching the surface. What I talked about today barely scratches the surface of free speech issues. Of course, there's a million other things to get into. Leave some comments below if you know of some things I should check out as far as that goes. But we all know where this is heading. So as always, live freely, live by example. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.